Hello, YouTube. So, there really have been a lot of things going on TV in the past few weeks. For one, Arrow and the Flash are back, and we got to learn that, yay, Felicity's not the one in the grave. My mind's on Thea or Laurel. Pray God it's Laurel, I hate her. But, and then we also got Legends of Tomorrow, which was a cool show. Um, We also got the return of the X-Files, which I watched with my dad. We also got the return. We also got a new show after that, called Lucifer, which actually surprisingly made my dad laugh a lot. So, there are a lot of shows that we can talk about. I'm of course going to talk about a show that's not on the air anymore. Because why not? Because this show is probably better, actually. Um, yeah, Arrow, you've really gone downhill. But, so I have actually taken notes on this one. I started taking notes in these. Um, I actually have 3 pages on this one. Yeah. My next one actually has 4. But, I have started taking notes for a reason. It's because, all the episodes that I'm watching are on YouTube, and I'm worried about copyright hitting, because the only real edit in these videos is that the camera is tilted, so yeah, that's pretty much the only edit that they have. The voices are still the same. It might be a bit sped up at times, but it still feels like the same amount of time. So yeah, pretty much that's my big problem is I'm worried that this will be taken offline and then I can't watch it. So I'm gonna start taking notes on the episodes. So yeah, I can check them if I forget anything and then just cut out that bit where I'm checking them because why would you want to see that? So with that, let's get started with a new program that has entered Argon. His name is Dyson. And this kind of strikes a nerve with Tron. But he has no reason to be worried because Dyson's just here for a review of the system and possibly to replace Tesla. Because, you know, Tesla was doing so great. Yeah, well, at least he's not actually replacing Tesla, he's just replacing him in the hunt for the Renegade, but yeah, really, are you that surprised? I mean, look back at these episodes. After all these defeats, are you really surprised that they're putting someone else in charge? Um, but of course, Tesla isn't that trustworthy of Dyson, so the obvious thing to do is send Paige and Pavel out to give him a tour and keep an eye on him. Really? Okay, so his obvious idea to prove that he's capable of catching the Renegade is to send out one of his most loyal soldier, actually no, his most loyal soldier, to take a tour. Does Paige really need to see the sights again? What what makes you think that she needs to go out here and do this? Like, you could have sent Pavel. And like, okay, I wouldn't trust Pavel either, but Tesla's stupid enough to fall for everything that Pavel does, so yeah, he should have been just trusting Pavel here. But then we can also see that Beck and Tron are sort of doing the same thing and keeping an eye on Dyson. And Tron's scars are getting worse. So Beck recommends that he goes back to the hideout, and Tron's pretty much saying, no, we gotta take out Dyson, we gotta capture him and bring him back to the hideout. This is an incredibly stupid idea, and luckily Beck notices and says, well, why don't we just take his disc? That's a good idea, but the whole entire episode of Identity kind of proves otherwise. Unless if you can check his disc and under a few days. I think that he's gonna notice. But, and so now pretty much we get a flashback as to why Tron seems to have his judgment a little bit clouded here. And we see that Tron and Dyson were actually friends and were working together on the ISO problem. So yay, the ISO problem came back. Yeah, they're still pretty much the druids from Merlin, though. And surprisingly, one of the people who's fighting against the ISOs is the girl from episode 2. You know, the girl who stole Abel's life cycle. Yeah, her. She's back. She doesn't even have a line. She's just there. This was either a really clever cameo or they just didn't have enough money for another model, so they just threw her in. But now we see that Tron and Dyson are trying to solve the problem of the ISOs peacefully. It does not go well. Dyson has half of his face even cut off and severely scarred. So now he's Two-Face. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, no, he's not Two-Face, but he's pretty much the same. Pretty much very similar and is now a villain for no discernible reason. It's just, oh, we got a scar in his face. Up, villain, because why not? Now we cut back to modern day as we see Tron is starting to train Beck to take on Dyson. But this training simulation gets a little bit intense when Tron tells Beck to kill him. Yeah, nothing ominous here. Beck, are you really this stupid? Do you seriously not see anything wrong with this scenario? Down on page 1. But do you really not see anything bad here? Just like, okay, he just asked you to kill Dyson. You're just like, well, he's still really a good revolution leader, so I don't care. But then we cut to the biggest issue Pavel and Paige have ever had. They're in an argument. The scene is really pointless, but it happens anyway. But then we get another flashback, yay! As we see that Dyson has now become rather cold-hearted towards the ISOs, and in a surprise appearance, Clue and, Flynn are here. Okay, so a few things are very big about this, that, for one, we've seen Clue and Flynn, but we've never actually heard their voices on this show. Like, they've been in other Tron-related things, sure, but we never actually heard them on this show. So, this is the very first time. And I gotta say, they do actually have some pretty cool voices. And it's actually kind of cool to see them come in for an issue which would be very big. Like, they're coming in here for the ISO problem. And it's very understandable. There have been fights and riots in the streets. And we find out that apparently Flynn wants to solve this peacefully as well. And then the flashback ends. Yeah, that's pretty much all that happened. Clue and Flynn just came in and said, hey, we'll solve this peacefully. Okay, that's the end of the flashback. These flashbacks are kind of like the flashbacks in Arrow. They can last for like 40 seconds. Or maybe a minute if we're lucky. So, yeah, they can get kind of annoying. But now we see that Beck is actually trying to get Tron's disc and succeeds, trying to prove to Tron that he can actually get Dyson's disc as well. I mean, if he was able to get Tron's, he can probably get Dyson's. And then they don't have to take Dyson to the hideout where Dyson could find out where they are and everything. And then they also might not have to derez him, so there's that. But Tron immediately shoots down the idea and threatens to fire Beck from the revolution. I didn't even know he could do that, but apparently the revolution is like his second job, which he cares about more. Has he ever even been back to being a mechanic? He hasn't been there in a while. I just now remember that. But now we see that Tron's plane is set and ready to go and capturing Dyson. As we learn the big information and the biggest reveal ever. The Renegade's worst crime is still vandalism. Yep. That one time that he cut off the head of a statue and threw a grenade in is still his worst crime. Why? That was just vandalism. Oh my god, he has done so much worse. How is vandalism his worst crime yet? What about in the episode Price for Power? He could have severely injured some of your guards. Did that not matter? It's still vandalism? Like, that's still his biggest crime he's ever committed? Okay. But then we see that Dyson has now spotted Beck, and we get an actually important that Dyson was involved in Tron's supposed murder. And I gotta say, this information does sort of tie up a lot of loose ends. And now we get another flashback, yay. As we see that Tron has now helped Flynn get to safety, but in the process, he has now been left and has to fight a whole entire group of programs that have gone against Flynn. In the end, he is severely injured, and it is Clue and Dyson that are the last to come out, which do strike the final blow. And we see that the reason why Dyson is now on Clue's side is because Clue healed his face. Okay, that was a nice gesture, but really? That's why you're going to go against everything that you know? It's just like, my face is healed? Okay, that obviously means go against everything that you've been trained and programmed to know. Alright, and now we see that Beck comes back empty-handed, and of course Tron is pretty pissed off at this point, but Beck is now starting to question Tron's motives, and then Tron just knocks him out, because I guess he couldn't think of a good answer, and goes off to de-res Dyson. And then the episode ends. So, and this was actually a very big episode. We do learn a whole lot more about Tron, and we do actually see that he can get personal vendettas, which is something very interesting. But for a revolution leader, he sure does take them very personally and cares a little bit more about them. At least in Arrow or something, Oliver put aside his hatred for Slade and just focused on the fact that Slade was a problem. Here, Tron is just looking at it as he was the guy who helped out Clue back in the day. He's dead to me. That's pretty much how he looks at it, and is actually going out to go and retrieve this gold. I'm not saying that doesn't make any sense. It's just, he's kind of putting his motivations behind him, and it's just sort of looking at this one goal that he has. And that's not really good quality for a leader, but at least we do see that Beck is being a little bit more reasonable here. And it is very cool to see everything that's going on in Tron's past and everything. That's very cool to see. I like the cameo of the girl from episode 2. That's very nicely tied in cameo. Either that or it might just be laziness, so I'm just gonna hope that was a nice little cameo. And it really does explain a lot more about everything going on with Tron, and it does explain the ISO problem. Because they don't really explain the ISOs in the episode that they come out, which is in the episode where they're all stuck alone on an island. They just say that the ISOs are bad for no inherent reason, they're just bad. So it is nice to actually see an explanation finally be done here. Because I was seriously wondering, why are they bad? Like, what's their problem? Well, apparently it's not like a disease or anything. It's actually, the fact that they are not supposed to be on the grid. And that they're apparently glitches that were not created by Flynn. So a lot of the programs on the grid are very much questioning what their point is in here. And Flynn is pretty much just saying, well, they were created by the grid. They're still equal programs. So it makes sense on both parties. So they really do show a good side in the politics era of Tron. And that's really what's supposed to be going on in these flashbacks, along with friendships being really put to the test, and that test not really going that well. Um, so it is very cool to see these flashbacks, and it's very awesome to hear Clue and Flynn. You can tell they were really saving their big reveal on what they sound like and everything. So it is very cool to actually see them finally appear. So all in all, this episode was very good. It does actually have some pretty funny moments too, but this is mainly a very serious and plot-related episode, so that does really show a little bit more, because they haven't had that many of those lately. Lately, they've just sort of been little handfuls of stuff that they were doing as the Renegade, and even though those episodes are very good, this one's a different. It's very good in a different sort of way. Um, for its own reasons, it does relate more to the plot, but it's also very well represented. So this is a very good episode, and if you're looking for one that explains a lot more about Tron's past, this is definitely one of the ones to check out. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I'll see you in the next vlog. Bye.